Have from LA joining us is Leslie Marshall, a nationally syndicated radio host and also a Fox News contributor. Hi, Leslie, and Happy New Year to you.
Hi, good morning.
And here on set, and same to you. And here on set we have Eric Yaverbaum, who is the president of Ericho Communications and the co-founder of readtovote.org. Thank you for being with us as well.
Thank you so much for having me, as always.
As Shannon Bream was just alluding to, President Obama is coming back from his vacation to face a brand new Congress and a strengthened GOP. Which says it wants to shrink the government and ease the regulations on the private sector. The Democrats are saying this is not the way to get the economy back on track. Leslie Marshall, what about all that?
Well, I actually think the president's in a great position because although his poll numbers were down, his poll numbers we see are rising. And if we look historically, a lot of presidents have done their best work when they have an opposing party. Look at Bill Clinton in control of the House and sometimes the House and the Senate. I have to say that personally, I do my best work under pressure. And right now the president's under pressure. So I think he's going to deliver. And I think right now the way it is positioned with the House having a Republican control, the Democrats and the president have an advantage. Because if things are great, like, you know, politicians do, they can take credit. But if things aren't, oh boy, they have somebody to blame.
Eric, Shannon Bream was talking about the debate over raising the debt ceiling. What about the opposition we're seeing shaping up here?
Well, I mean, raising the debt ceiling, you have two issues here. If we raise the debt ceiling, what will happen to the economy? Will there be some catastrophic events that could follow as a result of doing that? Raising the debt ceiling or not raising the debt ceiling is one thing. I think that it has to be tied to a balanced budget. Whether we raise it or whether we don't, we need, obviously, I think we all agree we got to balance the budget. So if we are going to raise the debt ceiling, let's make sure that it's tied to specific measures that will make sure that we're going to be able to balance this budget, because it's out of control.
Leslie, what about that, the debt ceiling, $14.3 trillion, the budget deficit right now, $13.9 million, trillion, that is. So we're getting close there, but you have some Republicans saying that they won't vote to raise that debt limit unless we bring spending back to 2008 levels.
You know, first of all, you can't bring anything back to a level of 2008 when you're not in 2008. It's unrealistic, and anybody knows that. You don't need to be an economist or a rocket science. I do agree with Eric that balancing the budget is key. Reducing the federal deficit is key, and not only key for our economy and the health of our nation financially, but it's what the American people want. However, 1 in 5 Americans consider it numero uno. So the politicians not only have to do a balancing act literally with the dollars and balancing the budget, attempting to do so, but they also have to look at the people that voted them into their positions and what they, the American people, their constituents, want.
Eric, President Obama says he is not done yet with the DREAM Act, the immigration legislation that would provide a path to citizenship for children of people who came here. Does that stand a chance?
You know what? I look at it and I say, this guy has got his plate full. How many things does he want to add to it? I mean, I think he's had a real rough first couple of years, and I would seriously be focused on the top priorities. I don't know if that's one of them, unfortunately. I actually have strong feelings about it, but it doesn't make my top, 5 list right now, and I would rather that the country focus on the top 5 list and that the president does that.
You have strong feelings in favor of the DREAM Act?
Yeah, I think there's some parts of the DREAM Act that are very, very positive. I just wouldn't use my limited hours in a day to be doing that with so many other problems that we have right now.
Leslie, what do you say about that?
Well, I agree with Eric a little bit here. First of all, I'm a huge fan of the DREAM Act. I do think the president has a lot on his plate. However, speaking to the people that brought him into office and the constituency, one of the areas that the president, especially with the presidential election for him, for looking for a second term in 2012, he has to look at the very large and ever-growing Latino population. And the Latino population that helped to put him into office has said, look, you've screwed us in a sense when it comes to immigration reform. So I don't think that the president, it's not that he desires to have so much on his plate. I think he really does have to look at that part of his base, so to speak, and address that. The DREAM Act, this is something where, to me, this isn't even shouldn't be a partisan manner. This is common sense again. Direct correlation between a lack of education and crime. The more educated a nation is, the less crime we will have, and the better our economy will be in the long run. This is a huge investment in the future. And why are we punishing kids for the sins of their parents? Don't get me started.
But the problem is that we are having this debate. I mean, whether you and I agree or not, or anybody else does, we are having this debate. This debate is going to take an awful lot of time. Unfortunately, I don't really get the debate myself, but we're going to do it nonetheless.
All right, another huge debate, and the Republicans promised right away that when they took control of the House, one of their first orders of business was going to be a repeal of the Health Care Act, Obamacare, as it is sometimes called. Everyone agrees that although it does probably have the votes to pass in the House, it probably doesn't have the votes to pass in the Senate, and in any case, it's not going to get past Obama's veto pen. But there is a vote scheduled for later this week, and perhaps a final vote early next week. Eric, what about this?
Well, again, this is more politics as usual in D.C. I'm not saying that there's parts of this that we ought not roll back a little bit, because at best that's what's going to happen. There will full-out repeal of this it's just not going to happen. So again, the taxpayers, we're going to pay a lot of money for this very long debate when we know we're going to have a problem in the Senate anyway, and the president has the veto power.
Leslie, the Republicans are saying that this is just a way to send a strong statement that we're going after this bill one way or the other. If it doesn't work this way, and they're saying it probably won't, but they're going to try it anyway. They do have some Democrats who will support the repeal. They're taking a lot of heat from their constituents. But assuming that it fails just an all-out repeal, they want to go after the funding, and they say that they have the strength to block the funding of this bill, which would be another way of effectively killing it, right?
Yeah, but here's an example of where the Republicans, and sorry, maybe because I'm a Democrat, I'm a little biased here, lied to the American people. Because what I heard John Boehner say, and what I heard the Republicans say, Tea Party or other sides, Tea-Publicans as I call them, say to the American people, their agenda was three-pronged. One, to reduce spending, cut spending. Two, to create jobs. And three, to stop the way Washington used to work. Stop doing things in Washington the way they used to be done. What they're doing in Washington is completely contrary to those three. Repealing the health care bill, as Eric said, I agree with him 100%. It's going to be a huge waste of time and money, so it doesn't cut spending. Two, it doesn't create jobs. As a matter of fact, I think we know if we look at aspects of this bill that will create jobs, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's just common sense again and a reality. And three, this is doing business the way Washington did, because the American people, the majority of them, don't want this whole bill repealed. They want portions of it, such as the mandate, etc. So the majority of Americans either don't want it repealed at all, want portions of it tweaked, and that's the best you're going to get. I agree with Eric at the end of the day. So this is grandstanding. This is theater, and that's exactly what the American people, left, right, center, and otherwise, said they don't want from Congress, and that's why they threw out so many incumbents, both Democrats and Republicans, in the last election.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons they threw them out, Eric, is because a lot of people really did not want this health care bill at all, and there was kind of like a protest. That was one of the big issues.
Yeah, the thing is about the whole notion of this, because in the end of the day, we'll be sitting here in 6 months, we'll see parts of it that were taken away, parts of it that stayed intact. You know, also as a Democrat, full disclosure, although everybody who watches the show weekly knows I am, and sends me all your mean email, send me nice email, please.
I get more, Eric, I swear. Because I'm a chick on top of the mean. They also have to tweak my physical appearance.
The chicks get more, I see, okay.
Yes,
well, I'm glad to know that, because I wouldn't know that firsthand. But you do see what is disappointing to me under the politics as usual in D.C. is now we have how many signed letters that have gone, from people like Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer that have basically said, don't waste your time. Nothing is going to happen as a result. It's a preemptive threat. That sounds a lot like D.C. as usual to me, too, and that's from my own party.
Of course, if they can't get it killed politically, there are also legal challenges going on, and they've already won some rounds in court with the premise that the mandate, as mentioned earlier by Leslie, that every American buy a product, being health insurance, that it's against the Constitution. That has already made its way past one legal hurdle. There are many, many more to go. Most people say it's going to make it to the Supreme Court. Isn't it possible, Leslie, that the whole thing, or at least that big part of it, which is really one of the big pegs on which the whole thing stands, will be thrown out?
No, and I'll tell you why. Out of 3 rulings, 2 of which were saying that this mandate is not unconstitutional, 1 of which said that it was unconstitutional, I do believe it'll go to the Supreme Court. If you look at the docket of the calendar of the Supreme Court, you're talking after the president perhaps would be, reelected or well into his second term, or perhaps even out of office by the time they even get to address it. Regarding the mandate, I want to say, and I do support health care reform. I own a medical center. I'm married to a physician. So I know this as a small business owner, as somebody very enmeshed in the medical world from a different angle. And I have to say, I do want everyone to have insurance. One of the things that hurts the economy is how many people go to the ER, whether it's because they have a fever of 99 degrees, yeah, or if you sprain your ankle. I can't tell you how many times my husband will be up all night and he gets paid nothing, and that's not fair. But I will say this: having health care reform legislation with a mandate without a public option doesn't make sense to me. And in addition to the constitutionality question, the president is a constitutional lawyer. He worked as a constitutional lawyer for 10 years. This is not a stupid man. He would not sign something that he would perceive as unconstitutional.
Okay, let's move on to, this is tough here because we don't have really an opposing view today on our panel, but in any case...
Let's argue with each other a little bit more.
Eric, I can make it up. You want to make it up?
We're definitely getting the opposition.
You want to be the Republican?
I can tell you that. There's definitely a lot of disagreement coming from the chat. We wanted to also talk about the fact that there are sources now saying, not confirmed by the administration, that President Obama may appoint the former Commerce Secretary Bill Daley as his chief of staff or for some other top position. Again, not confirmed. This is a guy with some private sector experience as an executive at J.P. Morgan Chase. Let's start with Eric on this one. What do you think about Bill Daley?
I think that he's the shallow, easy PR answer to, we want to give the business community more of a voice, because it certainly would appear that way. I don't know if that would be my choice. I think he's a little bit loud. I think there's some other people that aren't quite as loud. It also seems a little bit to me like, they replace Rahm, they go back to Chicago, everything's in Chicago. It just, I think for whatever, and being a PR practitioner for life, whatever points the administration scores for putting him in place, I think they're going to lose under that whole Chicago thing and the fact that Daley's not a quiet guy.
Yeah, Leslie, what about that? Is Obama, if he is indeed doing this, trying to reach out to the business community and prove that he's not so anti-private sector? And do you think Bill Daley would be a good choice as chief of staff?
I agree with Eric 100% on this. Sorry that we're not disagreeing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the one you're supposed to disagree with me on.
Okay. I think it's brilliant. Okay. No. And the reason is, although I do think it's sort of like, killing two birds with one stone, and one is the business community. The other is, this is so obviously payback. We all know when any person, Democrat or Republican, is elected into any office, that they go back and appoint people who help them along the way. This is a man who turned his allegiance to the Clintons to help Barack Obama. This is a man, as Eric stated, is from Chicago, is from that home group. And I do think that the president needs to get away from that. And I think right now is a time where he has to look at what team is going to help me best in the next 2 years to keep this position for 4 more years, instead of looking back to favors that have to be repaid. And I think this is partially a favor that has to be repaid hand in hand with trying to appease and even please the business community.
All right, and on that note, Leslie Marshall, I understand we have to bid goodbye to you for now. Thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks for having me.
And once again, she is a nationally syndicated radio host and a Fox News contributor. Eric Yaverbaum will remain with us, so we'll be hearing more from him. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on Hitting the Headlines.